Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. Also, I'm really happy. We had a great night last night. I was going to say let's celebrate last night, but I know not everyone had a great night. Pretty much, if you caught the Keldon Johnson news, you should have at least profited last night. I feel like that was pretty much the rule of thumb. Like, as long as you were able to get Keldon Johnson out of your lines, you were good. That news mess right before lock was a shit show. But we were able to figure it all out. It all started to make sense. And let's look at what happened yesterday. Let's see. Why is this not? Here we go. Wait, give me 1 second, guys. Having some technical difficulties. Getting this straight out. Let me pause sharing screen for a little bit. All right. I have 3 screens. I need to figure out which screen this Microsoft Words document is under. It's hiding from me. Or it just really hates me for some reason. Okay, well, for some reason, I can't get the winning lineup to show up for us. But pretty much we were on a lot of the right guys. There were 2 key pieces that we were missing. The first one was one that we were actually on during the pre-lock show. And that was Reggie Jackson made the nuts lineup last night. And it's hilarious because we were actually talking about Reggie Jackson, like I said, on the pre-lock show. And it's funny because we were like, hey, the Pistons are literally the worst team at guarding the point guard position. This was a revenge game for Reggie Jackson. And then we were like, oh, the hard part is John Wall is just such a high usage guy that it's going to be tough for Reggie Jackson to still get there. But ultimately, we liked the matchup. I put him on my leverage sheet for literally 1 minute, and then we got the Kawhi Leonard news, and I took him out. That was my big mistake. I went back and back tested last night's slate, and literally all I had to do was increase my exposure to Reggie Jackson and Ben Simmons and hit the nuts line. Now, the Ben Simmons piece is another slightly frustrating thing. He was a sneaky play last night. We talked about on the pre-lock show, hey, I'm lower on the Nets and Trailblazers game in general, but there's 2 ways this Nets game can go. The Nets can realize Kevin Durant called them out and kind of go into their shell and not perform, or they can come out hot and crush tonight. I was lower on that game. Funny enough, Upper Slad, one of the DFS Army coaches, and I were talking about Ben Simmons on Wednesday about how he was looking better, how he was actually attacking the rim. We definitely should have hit that one a little bit harder. But ultimately, it was a really good night. There were those 2 pieces that I wish we could have hit harder, but it was a good one. This is a big slate, though. Let's not focus too much on the past. We have a ton to talk about for this slate. This show is basically becoming a, hey, here's injury news you need to watch out for during the day. Also, just like, hey, here's all the guys who are out, and we're going to figure out how to handle these situations. But let's start off with the Miami Heat against the Washington Wizards. Long list. Stay with me for a little bit. David, man, I'm sorry last night didn't treat you right in NFL. I didn't play because the NBA was so late, but sorry I didn't treat you right. The game looked like it was a fun game, though. Starting off with the Miami Heat, though. Bam Adebayo is closer to doubtful than looking like he's going to play. Jimmy Butler is actually out. Caleb Martin looks like he's going to play. Dwayne Dedmon looks like he's going to play. Udonis Haslem is out for personal reasons. That doesn't really matter. He doesn't see the field. Tyler Hero is out still. And then Victor Oladipo and Omar Yurtseven are still out. It looks like Martin's going to play, but of course, if Martin is out, then guys like Duncan Robinson and Max Strus stand out. Outside of that, I mean, with Jimmy Butler out already, we like guys like Gabe Vincent, Caleb Martin, Max Strus, Kyle Lowry a lot more. For me, I think even guys like Jovic become more interesting. He's someone that I'm iffy on. I want to see and do a little bit more research on how many minutes we think he's going to see today. Just because his last game, he started off really hot and looked like we smashed by playing him. and then he really cooled off and didn't do anything. And so I need to look back at that game and just make sure that this is a smart play. And just because we have so many value options, I don't want to get stuck on just one. So we'll see how much the DS is giving us later today on the pre-lock show, but we'll go from there. All right, next game. And just for those of you who may be new, the pre-lock show is a show that will be at 4 p.m. today due to the Tournament Tactics show. So it'll be at 4 p.m. today, and that's only for DFS Army VIP members. And so definitely recommend you guys tuning in there. Also, completely forgot. Sorry, as you guys can tell. Thank you for saying I look nice, David. But today is a little bit of a super busy day for me. Congratulations to my guy, Mr. 5 Cents. You guys see him in the chat every now and then. He crushed last night, took down a single entry contest. And he played guys like Ben Simmons and Reggie Jackson. And the thing I like about Mr. 5 Cents is he watches all the content. He takes in all the things that all the coaches are saying, but he still has his own unique ideas. I say this all the time. Like, I love when people still take their own risk. Like, I started off as a DFS Army member, and I literally did that. Take in all the information that everyone's giving you, and then shoot your own shots. So anyway, to become a VIP member and watch the pre-lock show, you feel free to click the description or click the link in the description, and you can use promo code BOB for a 10% VIP discount. And yeah, Nick Butler has not looked good this year. I'm glad he's out, mostly because I was going to play him again. With Bam Adebayo out, or looking closer to being out, and Tyler Hero out, I was going to take the shot again. This is also a much easier matchup than the last game he had, so I would have shot my shot. All right, moving forward. The Hornets are making life complicated for us. LaMelo Ball is out. He hurt his ankle with the fan. Tough luck. Dennis Smith Jr. is looking doubtful. Gordon Hayward was doubtful, but now he's questionable. If Gordon Hayward plays at 6,700, I think he would be in play potentially. But we have a lot of really good spots on this slate, so I don't know if we'll have to get too crazy there. Theo Maledon, I like him slightly less if Gordon Hayward plays. But of course, like with LaMelo out, Dennis Smith Jr. out, guys like Theo Maledon and James Bouknight, we'll see a few more minutes here. Of course, like Terry Rozier and Kelly Oubre see the biggest boost of all these guys out, but I like them less if Gordon Hayward plays here. This is a ceiling spot for a lot of guys on the Cavaliers. Jared Allen is questionable. Dean Wade is doubtful. If all the Cavs are healthy, I might take a few shots on Donovan Mitchell and Jared Allen here. Ultimately, I would prefer for Jared Allen to be out. Yes, Mr. 5 Cents. Crushing it, man. Good to see you in here. I was like, man, I'm giving him a shout out. He's usually in here. I don't know if he's here. Good to see you, man. And congratulations. Like, love to see that, man. Yeah, if Jared Allen's out, I would be more interested in Evan Mobley and Donovan Mitchell. But like I said, I'm going to have interest in this game and this team in general. Just a nice ceiling spot for a few of these guys, but not someone that's going to be like a core player or anything like that. Now, we have the Bucks and 76ers. Now, when it comes to the Bucks, there's a few guys probable. We have Grayson Allen probable. Drew Holiday is questionable. Pat Connaughton's still out. All the other guys are still out. Now, on the Sixers side of things, it looks like Matisse Thybulle is not on the injury report, so he might actually play. And then Furkan Korkmaz is still out. And then, of course, James Harden is still out. Yeah, and I kind of forgot to mention, like, we had someone else take down the mini tournament. We had a lot of guys do very, very well yesterday, but Mr. 5 Cents was the only one who gave me permission to give him a shout out, which is fine. Like, I know a lot of guys like to keep things private, so I never have any animosity against them for that. So yeah, on the Sixers, Bucks side of things, you'll see people on both sides of this game. Some people are going to completely fade it, not really get a lot of access to like Giannis or Joel. I'm sure a lot of stats that you guys will see a lot today is that the Bucks limited Embiid to 15 points. on October 20th, so last month. The thing is, I don't really care too much about that. Long term, we have seen Joel Embiid, or we've seen Giannis average like roughly 64.5 points per game in like the last 2 games. And so this is one where Joel Embiid and Giannis, they don't match up well on paper, but this game, and whenever they face each other, it's always intense and the spread is close, and that game environment is what kind of can help them reach their ceilings. So it's never really a spot I love to target, but it's a spot I'm willing to target just because the game environment can help them reach their ceilings, even when the matchup isn't great. So it's risky on both sides. Neither one of them stand out a ton for me, but I do like. But I think I will. Like, we'll see how much exposure DS gives me, but I'm comfortable having them in my pool. I'm not taking a stand on that argument, to be honest with you. Drew Holiday, like I said, is questionable. We've seen this time and time again. Javion Carter is going under-owned whenever Drew Holiday is out, so I'm just trying to highlight that for everyone. It's worth getting exposure to Javion Carter when Drew Holiday is out. Again, this is not the best matchup, but the game environment is right, where it's worth getting a little bit of exposure on a slate this large. All right, next up for the Magic, we have Wendell Carter Jr. is probable. Gary Harris is probable. Paolo Banchero is out. Cole Anthony is out. Mo Wagner is out. Fultz is out still. Jonathan Isaac is out as well. It looks like we are expecting Wendell Carter Jr. to return, which, of course, does impact Bol Bol. Also, Mo Bamba would go back to the bench if Carter is playing as well. I just understood your congrats nickel joke. That was a good one, Timothy. That was good. Yeah. So that's pretty much what happens. What's happening with the Magic. On the other side of it, the Bulls are relatively healthy. They have Patrick Williams questionable and Kobe White questionable. This game, on paper, should stand out. With Paolo Banchero being out, you would think these guys would pop a bit more. I think he's just been out long enough where they're priced appropriately, where all these guys are more so just GPP plays and they don't stand out a ton. You can always, you'll see that Andre Drummond is definitely popping from a value standpoint. It looks like he's been playing very well, on those short stints he's been doing. For me, he is really more so in play when Vucevic is out, but he's worth considering. Yeah, man, the Magic are getting low on guys, but if Wendell Carter Jr. comes back, pretty much the usage guy on this team is Franz Wagner. And Franz, he has a nice floor, but his ceiling hasn't been there so far this season. So it's going to be tough. No one's really popping too much for me right now, but I'm sure I'll have some light exposure to guys like Bol, Wendell Carter. They're the ones who get me the most excited. But yeah, similar story with the Bulls. When they're all healthy, I usually get somewhere between 5 and 20% to some of their studs, just because none of them really stand out. This is a fantastic matchup on paper, but again, when they're all active, no one really stands out too much. On the pre-lock show, we'll dig a little bit deeper into some of the matchups, and I'm sure there might be one, we'll have a favorite of the three who I'll have a little bit more exposure on than the others, but we'll save that one for the pre-lock show. All right. Moving to the Thunder Memphis game. This one, we have Trey Mann out, Darius Bazley out, Ousmane Dieng. Those are some G Leaguers. On the Memphis side of it, we have Desmond Bane still out, Zaire Williams is still out, and then Danny Green's been out the whole season. For me in this game, you can always consider Ja Morant. That is first and foremost something I think we all know, but I still like to say it. Similar story with SGA. We have probably two of the hottest point guards in the league facing each other right now. And funny enough, neither one of them are great defenders. And so you are exactly right, Kenny. There's a solid, I don't think that's like an unpopular thing. I think a lot of people are going to be interested in having John Morant and SGA in the same lineup, and I'm totally fine with it too. So definitely not something I'm against. All right. Outside of them, you can definitely consider guys like Josh Giddey and Jaren Jackson. I think Josh Giddey, we still haven't seen him like break a slate recently, but that upside is there, so definitely worth considering. Jaren Jackson, last game out, was his first game returning. He played 25 minutes, so that's not bad, and that's not bad for this price tag at all. It's a solid matchup for him. He has decent upside. He's not looking too popular right now. 13% is high. Hopefully it doesn't go up too much higher. If it does go higher, I might start to get a little bit nervous about it. But around 13%, I'm still okay with that. Outside of that, you can definitely leave guys like Clark in your pool. We've seen weird things happen before with Steven Adams where that can pay off as well. And then on the Thunder side of things, like you can always consider Lu Dort is someone I prefer to play on smaller slates, so I don't really get too excited about playing him on a slate this large. Of course, guys like Poku have had multiple strong performances at this point. He's still a GPP tournament guy for me. On the other, moving on, we have the Rockets against the Pacers. This is a game. This is the game with the highest total on the slate. Wow, that's a good stat. SGA or Morant have been in 87% of the perfect lines when they have played. That is insane. That is insane. All right. So like I said, this game is has the highest total in the entire slate. One of the faster paces as well. The hard part is that when it comes to this game in general, there's not a ton of injury news, and we're in a slate with a lot of injury news, so that kind of limits how much some of these guys will start to pop for us. Kevin Porter Jr. is questionable. Now, if Kevin Porter Jr. is out, that would definitely increase how much I am excited about guys like Jalen Green and just a lot more of the guys on this Rockets team, just because Kevin Porter Jr. does so much for them. Jason Tate is still out. And Bruno Fernando is still out as well. The Pacers have been actually pretty good at defending, or the Rockets have actually been pretty good at defending the center position. They are ranked. Opposing centers have had the third fewest allowed field goals and rebounds per game this season when they're facing the Rockets. So Miles Turner is interesting just because we've seen how dominant he's been this season. I'm not off of him, but I do want to recognize that this matchup is a little bit tougher than it may look on paper or just in people's minds. Also, with it being a high total game, I'm totally fine getting exposure to guys like Tyrese Halliburton. Eason is someone he's been very efficient with the few minutes he's had. I think we just need him to have more minutes. If he's only seeing 20 minutes, that's not going to be enough. 20 minutes or less is not going to be enough. You need him to see more. Outside of that, like there's guys like Singin and Jabari. I think there's a lot of guys on the Rockets that we can consider. The Pacer side of it is a little bit tougher, but I do want exposure to this game since it does have the highest total. So I do, like when I run the DS later today, if it's missing a lot of guys from this game because of all the other value, that's something that I'm going to want to keep a good pulse on. Rooster Jones asked, for single entries, should I lean more to a cash lineup approach? Yeah, so pretty much my rule of thumb for when I play single entry in 3-max contests is I like to build relatively cashy with 1 or 2 pivots. And that's pretty much my rule of thumb. This may seem like Nick asked or said, this may seem like a silly question, but how do you decide what percentage you'll use of a particular player? So for me, there's the core guys I have who are my highest owned players who are always at least above roughly 60% ownership for me. Usually they end up being like in that 70-80% range. And And then outside of that, I start increasing guys that I am personally higher on. And I kind of go through that during the pre-lock show. Guys that I want to get leverage on, I'll try to double the field at least, sometimes triple the field based on what the projections are. And that's what I usually run through during the pre-lock show. There's a lot of different strategies and a lot of different techniques. We have a lot of really good DFS Army coaches here who have different strategies and processes as well that you can check out too. But that's just what I do. All right, moving on. This Denver Nuggets against the Mavericks game is going to be wild. So the spread is 9 points, which is a pretty wide spread. There's a chance of a blowout here. The Denver Nuggets are missing Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray are both going to be out. And Aaron Gordon still has this illness and he's questionable. That's a lot of high usage guys potentially out for the Nuggets tonight, which really sets up for a Nuggets slate where guys like Bones Highland is going to be the highest owned guy on the slate. For me, I'm interested in guys like Bruce Brown going under-owned. Michael Porter Jr., I'm going to be all over tonight. I know he's burned us time and time again. He might burn us again tonight, but I don't care. I like the increase in usage with these guys out. The matchup is not easy. We talk about it all the time. Luka Doncic, I'm not even going to say the Mavericks. Luka Doncic plays at the slowest rate pace in the league. And that creates difficult matchups for the opposing teams, but we're getting all these guys at a value, and I think it's worth it. Yeah, MPJ is not looking great. That is the concern. He's not passing the eye test, but I'm still going to shoot my shot on him. Jamie said, I know it was the early game, and you probably mentioned it already, but yeah, Jimmy Butler is ruled out, and there's definitely going to be some interesting plays in that Miami Heat game for sure. Spicing up the slate when it's already spicy. Outside of that, there's a ton of guys on the Nuggets that you can consider. If Bruce Brown's really only going to be 7% owned, then he's probably going to be one of my sneakier plays on the slate. And that I hope smashes. He's done well in these spots where Jamal Murray's been out. DeAndre Jordan's definitely someone we can consider as well. He played more minutes than I thought he was going to play in the last game. And if we can see him play 26 minutes, he can get there. Not someone I'm going to have a ton of, but I'm comfortable with that exposure. Outside of that, on the Mavericks side of things, I guess we only play Spencer Dinwiddie when Luka's playing. I don't know. I mean, not someone I'm going to have a ton of exposure to, but it can work. Christian Wood saw a ton of minutes last time out. And so the hard part about Christian Wood, he's someone that I think he's not a deciding factor, but he's a potential GPP play. If you believe that he really showed something in the last game and the coaches are going to keep allowing him to have more opportunities, then I think this is a spot where you can definitely attack him. At 6,900, if he sees an increase in minutes, I think he could be worth it. The concern is that they just go back to using him the way that they were, and they don't really increase his minutes or anything like that. You have to remember last time out as well, it was a revenge game for him, and he's facing the Rockets. And so not the toughest matchup in the world, all right. Outside of that, I think that's pretty much all the interest I have in the Mavs. They're not a team that you typically want to target too much when Luka's in there. Tim Hardaway Jr., he had a great game last time out. But again, Doncic was out, so I don't care too much about that information. All right, moving on. Celtics Pelicans. Malcolm Brogdon is probable. Marcus Smart is questionable. Robert Williams is still out. Gallinari is still out. Smart's in. If Brogdon's in as well, my interest in the Celtics go down a lot. This is a tough matchup for them. The Pelicans are a really good defensive team. Just not an exciting matchup for me. Zion, on the Pelican side of things, Zion is still questionable. Chance he's out. When Zion has been out so far this season, we've seen McCollum and Valanciunas lead the Pelicans in usage. Now, the issue of Valanciunas is always his minutes. And will those minutes be there for him in this matchup? is almost anyone's guess. I think facing Al Horford, it wouldn't shock me if they give him the mid to upper 20 minutes that we prefer to see from him instead of the under 20 minutes we see from him sometimes. Honestly, it's almost anybody's guess. It goes both ways a lot. But I'm fine getting exposure to Jonas Valanciunas as a GPP tournament play at low ownership if Zion is out. Chris said, hey, I'm new here. Where can I find the VIP member pre-lock on Discord or the website? So I post the pre-lock show link on in the NBA Talk channel on Discord. It is posted on the website as well, but I don't really do that. That's some of our operations team. Yeah, Nuggets value pack. Contrarian way, you can always fade it, but I'm going to probably eat that chalk today. All right. On the Pelicans side of things, talked about that. Celtics not too interested in them, especially if they're all healthy. All right, moving on. We have the Celtics, or we have the Jazz and the Suns. Chris Paul is questionable with that heel injury still. Josh Okogie is questionable. Of course, if Chris Paul comes back in this game, I'm not as excited about it, about the Suns in general. If he's out, of course, like Devin Booker still at 9,400, willing to attack it. DeAndre Ayton is still too cheap. It's funny, like he's not really exceeding his value, but we've seen him in the nuts a few times now. And we've seen him hit the nuts a few times now, and he's just a fill-in spot, and that's just how I'm going to use him. He's a fill-in spot. Yeah, Trey Murphy's also in play if Zion is out. Don't forget that. Like, Trey Murphy has been crushing with Zion out. And yeah, he's just like Malik Monk. And we were on Malik Monk yesterday. Malik Monk did well. He was a leverage play for me. And just like that, I would say Trey Murphy does have more minutes locked in. And Trey Murphy is a more consistent player slightly, but definitely that risk is still there. He's a 3-and-D guy. He's trying to improve upon that, but he's still a 3-and-D guy. And if that 3 shot's missing, he's going to have limited field goal opportunities. Awesome. All right. On the Jazz side of things, I'm not particularly interested. I think you can always take GPP shots on guys like Lauri Markkanen and Jordan Clarkson, but we know the Suns are good defensively, so these guys just aren't going to stand out a ton unless they have a ceiling performance that surprises. Yay, we have the Golden State Warriors again. For me, this team, they're coming into this slate healthy. Kuminga's questionable. Doesn't really impact too much for me. Mitch Robb is still doubtful. That doesn't change too much for me either. Steph Curry has been on a tear. You can always play Stephen Curry. He's going to be one of the more popular studs on this slate, and I'm fine with it. I'm going to have exposure. I doubt I'll be over the field, but I'll have exposure. Steph Curry is one of those guys that I love. I love Steph Curry. He's one of my favorite basketball players. He's, I'm from North Carolina. It makes sense. I know. I've been all over Lauri for so long, but I think finally, this is kind of my time where I'm jumping the ship. But anyway, Steph Curry is the one that really stands out here. I think you can take some value shots on guys like Cam Reddish and Emmanuel Quickly. We'll talk about them a little bit more on the pre-lock show. But ultimately, these are more just like GPP guys that I'm not going to be too high on. I'll be high on them, but no one that I'm too excited to play really from this game. Both teams just have a lot of guys, you know what I mean? Both teams have a lot of guys. They're all healthy. The usage is everywhere. That's why I'm just going to have exposure to it, and hopefully they get in the right lines. Gonna let the DS do its thing. Not gonna get too creative there. The Lakers are eye-rollable once again. LeBron James is questionable. Anthony Davis is probable. We know what to do at this point. If one of them end up being out, we like the other. Russell Westbrook becomes a better play. The Pistons are coming off of a back-to-back. So there's definitely always a chance that we might see some injury news buffoonery from them. So be careful about that. Isaiah Stewart is still out. Cade Cunningham is still out. So Marvin Bagley, who I know hurt a lot of people's feelings last night, will probably remain in the starting lineup. Bojan Bogdanovic, Sadiq Bey, Jaden Ivey, Killian Haynes, all in play once again for me. I like this matchup for them a lot more than I liked their matchup last night. So I increased my exposure slightly. I had some exposure here and there. But ultimately, I think the Pistons might actually be a spot where I try to get over the field on some guys like Bojan. Like yesterday, the Bojan play worked out very, very well. Bojan play, Sadiq Bey, Ivy, Bagley. I like all of them a lot tonight. And definitely a guy like Bagley, going back to him after he hurt a lot of guys last night. Love that play. But yeah, guys, that's the slate in a nutshell. I appreciate all of you guys joining, watching, and supporting this channel. If you guys could like and subscribe, it helps me a ton just to know people are actually watching. So if you guys could do that, it would help a ton. Outside of that, I look forward to seeing you guys at 4 p.m. today during the pre-lock show. Let's crush it. Let's make some money. Peace.